I used to joke that I was pretty much a single mom. I'd laugh it off when friends asked about my husband, always making it sound like I had it all together. I'd tell them about the long hours he worked, how he barely had time for dinner, let alone spending time with our child. It's like I'm raising him on my own, I'd say with a smile, the words hanging in the air like they were nothing more than a light-hearted quip. They'd laugh along with me, even though I knew it wasn't really a joke. At least, not the way I meant it. But now, here I am, alone in our living room, holding my baby's favorite stuffed animal as she cries herself to sleep in her bed. The house feels bigger without him here, quieter in ways I never imagined. My husband is on a business trip, but this time, he's not coming back soon. He'll be gone for months, and for the first time, I realize there's no humor in my words anymore. This is the reality. I am a single mom. It's funny how fast everything changes. Just a few weeks ago, I was still joking about how much I had to do on my own, trying to cover up the resentment with humor. I'd convinced myself I was fine, that I could handle it all, but now? Now, the exhaustion is real. The weight of every decision, no matter how small, feels unbearable. I never thought it would hit me like this. Never thought I'd actually have to carry this load completely on my own. I glance at the clock on the wall. It's nearly midnight. He was supposed to call 2 hours ago. I know he's busy, and that's fine, but I can't shake this feeling of being abandoned. Not by him, exactly, but by the person I thought he was. The man who would always say, "We're in this together, and I've got your back." Those words feel like they belong to someone else now. I think back to the last conversation we had before he left. It wasn't a fight, not exactly, but there was tension. He promised he'd make time for us. For me. But the phone call he promised has yet to come. I fold the laundry I've been putting off for days, my mind drifting to the endless tasks waiting for my attention. The bills that need to be paid. The school project that still isn't finished. The dinner I didn't make because I couldn't find the energy to cook. And then there's the constant fear. Fear that I'm not doing enough for our daughter. That she's going to grow up thinking this is normal. That this is how a family is supposed to work. I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. My mind races, but I don't have time to process it all. I've got to keep going. There's no time to break down, no time to feel sorry for myself. If I stop, even for a moment, everything might collapse. So, I keep moving, folding shirts and socks, letting the routine numb my thoughts. The phone buzzes in my pocket. I don't even have to look at the screen to know it's him. It's always him. I pull the phone out and see his name. I pause for a second, swallowing the lump in my throat, before I answer. "Hey," I say, trying to sound normal. "Hey," he replies, his voice distant. "How's everything going?" "Fine," I say, even though nothing feels fine. Just the usual. You know, laundry, dishes, trying to keep things together. I laugh, but it sounds forced, even to me. There's a long pause on the other end, and I can feel him trying to figure out what to say. I wait, hoping for something more. Something that shows he cares. "That's good," he says, finally. "I'm sorry I haven't called earlier. It's been hectic here. You know how it is." I do know how it is. I know exactly how it is. He's always busy. I just wish he would have made the effort to call when he said he would. I wish he would have made the effort to call like he used to. "It's fine," I say, my voice tight. "I get it. You're busy." "I miss you," he says, and it's not enough. Not nearly enough. I want to scream, to tell him how I'm drowning here, how I'm so tired, how I need him to be more than just a voice on the phone. But I don't. Instead, I force a smile, even though I know he can't see it. I miss you too, I lie. We talk for a few more minutes, but it's shallow. The kind of conversation you have with someone you don't really know anymore. It's like we're two strangers, exchanging pleasantries to fill the silence. When we finally hang up, I feel worse than before. More alone than I've felt in months. I sit in the silence of the room, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The house is too quiet. The air too still. I'm not ready for this. I thought I was, but I'm not. I thought I could handle it, but the truth is, I can't do it all alone. I look over at our daughter, sleeping peacefully in her bed, unaware of the storm brewing in the background. For her sake, I have to keep going. I have to make this work. But deep down, I'm not sure how much longer I can pretend everything is fine. The days have become an endless blur. I wake up every morning with the weight of 1,000 tasks waiting for me, and by the time I lay my head down at night, I'm too exhausted to even think about tomorrow. The routine has taken over, and in some ways, it's easier to just keep moving than to stop and let myself feel the full impact of what's happening. I've gotten used to doing everything on my own. I've learned to juggle the laundry, the dishes, the endless stream of emails and meetings, while also trying to make sure my daughter gets to school on time, does her homework, and remembers to brush her teeth. Every task feels like an obstacle I have to overcome. Every little victory, a clean kitchen, a completed report, a happy smile from my daughter, feels like a temporary break before the next wave of responsibilities crashes into me. And still, I keep going. I tell myself that I can handle it. I have to. No one else is going to step in and do it for me. No one else is here. The hardest part, though, is the silence. When my husband left, I thought the quiet would be an opportunity for me to catch my breath. I thought it would be easier, somehow. But now, I realize that it's the silence that is strangling me. There's no one to talk to, no one to share the burden. Every day feels like I'm fighting a battle on my own, and even when I reach out for help, it's never quite enough. I've started to isolate myself. I used to meet friends for coffee, go out for dinner, and laugh about the chaos of life, but now it feels like too much effort. When I talk to them, they ask how everything's going, and I tell them I'm fine. Of course, I'm fine. I'm always fine. But inside, I'm breaking. There's this constant hum of frustration, loneliness, and exhaustion running through me, and it's getting harder to mask it with a smile. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through emails when I hear my daughter's voice from the other room. She's asking for help with a school project, and for a moment, I'm overwhelmed by the thought of having to juggle one more thing. But I get up, because I have to. She needs me. I walk into the living room, where she's sitting on the floor with her books scattered around her. "Mom, I don't get this part," she says, pointing to a page in her textbook. "Can you help me?" I nod, smiling even though I'm tired. "Of course, sweetie. Let's take a look." I sit down beside her, trying to focus on the assignment, but my mind keeps wandering. It's hard to concentrate when all I can think about is the mountain of things that still need to be done. The phone calls I haven't made. The bills I haven't paid. The emails I still need to respond to. And my husband, where is he? Why hasn't he called today? I push the thoughts aside and focus on my daughter, trying to give her the attention she deserves. But even as I help her with her homework, I can't shake the feeling that I'm failing her. Am I doing enough? Is she getting what she needs from me? I want to be everything for her, but I'm not sure I have it in me anymore. After a few minutes, I notice she's staring at me, her brow furrowed. Mom, are you okay? I freeze, caught off guard. How does she know? She's only 8, but somehow, she can see right through me. I smile, a little too wide, trying to reassure her. Of course, honey. Why wouldn't I be? She doesn't say anything, but I can see the concern in her eyes. She's too young to fully understand what's happening, but she knows something is off. I hate that she has to carry this worry, even if it's just a small part of her day. I want to protect her from this weight, but there's no way to hide it. I'm fine, really, I say, brushing a strand of hair out of her face. Let's finish this project, okay? She nods, but I can tell she's not convinced. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep up the act. The exhaustion is catching up with me, and the loneliness is suffocating. I want to talk to someone, to let them know how much I'm struggling, but I don't. I can't. I don't want anyone to think I'm weak, or that I can't handle it. I've spent so long pretending everything's okay that I'm not sure who I'd be if I stopped pretending. Later that evening, after I've tucked my daughter into bed, I sit down on the couch, exhausted. I glance at the clock. It's already past 10, and my husband still hasn't called. I try not to let it bother me, but it does. I just want to hear his voice, to know that he's thinking about us. I want to feel like I'm not alone in this, even if he can't physically be here. But the phone doesn't ring. I pull up the blanket and settle in, but sleep doesn't come. I keep replaying the same thoughts over and over. How did we get here? Why is this so hard? Why does it feel like I'm doing this all on my own, even when he promised things would be different? I wish I could tell him. I wish I could tell him how tired I am. How lonely I feel. How much I need him. But I don't. I just lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering how much longer I can keep up this charade. I feel like I'm losing myself, piece by piece. The days are beginning to feel like one long blur, each indistinguishable from the last. I wake up to the same frantic pace, the same endless to-do list that never seems to get shorter. I've become so accustomed to doing everything myself that I can't even remember what it felt like when there was someone else to share the load. I'm getting used to it, or at least I tell myself that I am. But there's a nagging feeling deep inside that I can't shake, a quiet voice that asks if this is really what my life has come to. My husband's absence is starting to feel like a permanent fixture in our lives. I know he's out there, working hard, trying to make everything better for us, but somehow it doesn't feel like enough. I need him here, not just in spirit, but physically present, the way he promised he would be. I'm at the grocery store, standing in front of the produce section, staring at the tomatoes as if they hold some sort of secret. I need to get through this shopping trip, but my mind keeps drifting to the same thoughts. I should be able to handle this. I should be able to do everything. But I can't. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending that I'm okay. The silence between us is growing. Every phone call feels like a quick check-in, a reminder that he's out there, doing his job, and I'm here, holding everything together. But I'm starting to resent it. I want to feel like he's really here with me, not just physically absent but emotionally distant too. I want him to see me, to hear me when I say I'm struggling. I want him to know how hard this is, how lonely it feels, even when I'm surrounded by people. I pick up a bag of potatoes, my fingers running over the rough skin as I try to push the thoughts away. But they keep coming back. What are we doing? Is this really the life we want? I thought I could handle this, but the cracks are starting to show. And I can't ignore them anymore. When I get home, I put the groceries away mechanically, moving from one task to the next without really thinking. My daughter is at her friend's house, so the house is quiet, but it's not the peaceful quiet I've been hoping for. It's heavy, the kind of quiet that makes everything feel hollow. I sit down on the couch, staring at the TV without really watching it. My phone buzzes in my hand, and I glance at it, hoping it's him. But it's just another email from work. Another reminder of all the things I have to do, the things I have to keep track of. I should call him. I should reach out, tell him how I'm feeling, how I need him more than ever. But I don't. I can't. There's something inside me that holds me back, some voice telling me that I'm being too needy, that I should be strong, that I shouldn't complain. I don't want to be the person who constantly asks for more. I don't want to be the one who seems weak, who can't handle things on her own. I've spent so much time convincing myself that I'm fine, that I'm managing just fine, but the truth is, I'm not. I'm tired. So tired. The thought of calling him makes my chest tighten, and I push it away again. I tell myself I'll just wait until he calls, but I know he won't. He's too busy, too focused on the work he's doing. I can't keep living like this, waiting for him to notice that I'm slipping, waiting for him to finally see how much I need him. Later that evening, I'm tucking my daughter into bed when she looks up at me with those big, innocent eyes. "Mom," she says softly, "why are you so sad all the time?" The question hits me like a punch to the gut. How does she know? She's only 8, but it's like she can sense it. She's been quiet lately, too, withdrawn in ways that make my heart ache. She doesn't say anything else, just stares at me, waiting for an answer. I don't know what to say. How do I explain to an 8-year-old that her mom is struggling, that I'm falling apart inside, that everything feels so much harder than it should? I smile, but it's strained, and I brush a lock of hair from her forehead. "I'm not sad, sweetie," I say, my voice trembling slightly. "Just tired, that's all. But I'm okay." "Really?" She looks at me for a moment longer, her brow furrowed in that way that tells me she's not entirely convinced. But she doesn't press the issue. "I love you, Mom," she says, hugging me tightly before settling back into her bed. "I love you too, sweetheart," I whisper, kissing her on the cheek. I leave her room, but my heart feels heavier than before. I want to protect her from this, from the sadness I can't seem to shake. I want her to feel safe and happy, not burdened by the weight of my own struggles. But how do I do that when I'm barely holding myself together? The silence in the house is almost suffocating as I sit down on the couch again, the TV still flickering in front of me. The weight of everything, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the unspoken tension between us, feels like it's pressing down on me all at once. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to clear my head, but it's no use. The thoughts keep coming, the questions that have no answers. How did we get here? Why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Why does it seem like I'm the only one trying to hold it all together? I glance at my phone again, hoping for a message, but there's nothing. I'm still waiting. Still hoping. But deep down, I know that things aren't going to change. Not unless I do something. The question is, what? I woke up with a sense of foreboding, an unshakable weight pressing down on my chest. The morning light streamed in through the window, casting long shadows across the room, but it didn't feel like a new beginning. It felt like another day in the same endless cycle. Another day where I would have to pretend that everything was fine, even when it wasn't. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards. My daughter was still asleep, her small figure curled up under the blanket, innocent and unaware of the tension that had been building up between her father and me. I had tried to keep it from her, tried to shield her from the cracks in our marriage, but it was becoming harder to hide. I sighed and stood up, my body aching from the weight of exhaustion. I moved through the motions of the morning routine, making coffee, preparing breakfast, getting my daughter ready for school, but my mind kept drifting back to the same thoughts. My husband's absence was suffocating. I had been holding everything together for so long, trying to maintain the illusion that we were fine, that I was fine. But the truth was, I wasn't. I was drowning in responsibilities, in expectations, in the overwhelming sense that I was doing it all alone. As I drove my daughter to school, the silence in the car felt more pronounced than usual. She chattered away about something she'd learned in class, but I could barely focus on her words. I was too lost in my own thoughts, wondering how much longer I could keep up this act. My husband had promised he would be there for us, that things would get better, but nothing had changed. And the longer I waited for him to come back, the more I realized that he might never return to the way things were. When I dropped my daughter off at school, I stood there for a moment, watching her walk inside with a skip in her step, unaware of the weight I was carrying. A part of me wanted to stay there, to turn around and leave with her, to escape from everything and start over. But I couldn't. I had responsibilities. I had to keep going, no matter how much it hurt. I went back home, and the emptiness of the house hit me once again. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the coffee cup in front of me, but I couldn't bring myself to drink it. Everything felt so hollow, so empty. I had been putting on a brave face for so long that I had lost track of who I really was. I needed to do something, anything, to break free from this cycle. I knew I couldn't keep living like this, pretending that everything was fine when it was far from it. But what could I do? What was the answer? I pulled out my phone and stared at it for a moment. I had avoided calling my husband for days, telling myself that he was busy, that I didn't want to burden him with my problems. But the truth was, I was scared. Scared that if I reached out, I would hear the same empty excuses, the same promises that didn't mean anything. I didn't want to feel rejected again. I didn't want to hear that he was too busy to care. But I couldn't keep pretending that I didn't need him. With a deep breath, I dialed his number. The phone rang a few times before it went to voicemail. I hung up before the beep, my heart sinking in my chest. I had hoped, stupidly, that maybe today would be different. But it wasn't. The next few hours dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. I cleaned the house, did laundry, made lunch, but nothing seemed to fill the empty space inside me. I kept glancing at my phone, hoping for a message, for a sign that things might change. But it never came. As the afternoon wore on, I picked up my daughter from school, trying to keep up the appearance of normalcy. We went through the motions, homework, dinner, bedtime, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to give. I had spent so much time trying to hold everything together, trying to be the strong one, but I was breaking. And no one could see it. That night, as I lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, I realized something. I couldn't keep waiting for things to change. I couldn't keep hoping that my husband would suddenly snap out of whatever haze he was in and come back to me. I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep living like this, in limbo, caught between the person I used to be and the person I was becoming. I had to take control of my own life, for me and for my daughter. I had to stop waiting for someone else to fix things, because no one else could. The decision came to me in a flash, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I would stop waiting. I would stop pretending. I would let go of the hope that things would magically get better. It wasn't going to happen. I knew what I had to do. I had to let go of the life I had built around the idea of us. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed. I needed to stop holding on to a relationship that was already gone, to stop clinging to the past and the empty promises. The next day, I packed up a few things, gathered my daughter's favorite toys, and made the hardest phone call of my life. I called a lawyer. It was time to let go. I knew there would be hard days ahead, and I knew I would have to figure out how to rebuild my life. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't the kind of peace I had imagined, one where everything fell into place and we lived happily ever after. But it was a peace born of acceptance, of realizing that sometimes, the only way to move forward is to stop holding on to what's already broken. I couldn't change the past, but I could change my future. And that was enough.